humble, knowledgeable, and a passionate fantasy author. These are the characteristics that define our guest for today. We welcome Benjamin Kamphuis. Benjamin's path to becoming a writer wasn't linear. He originally pursued a career in science, but a love of video games and fantasy books like Aragon or The Lord of the Rings put him back into storytelling. And now that it happened, it has become a part of himself, just as much as his other hobbies. He saw this as a chance to finally be able to talk about some personal themes that have been with him all his life, as a way to heal himself and others. A really inspiring person, working on his series, The Shapes of Aura. So welcome to Writing Inspiration with Marquee Books. Hello Benjamin, how are you?
Hi everyone.
Well, happy to have you here. So, do you have any story how you became a writer that you can share with us?
Yeah, so my writing journey, honestly, I leaned more in the science area at a younger age. I've always had like an imagination. Pokemon has always been a huge thing for me. And other video like Nintendo really just kind of dictated most of my life. I always enjoyed like reading stories. I'm a millennial, so like your pretty standard books of like the Inheritance Cycle with Aragon, the Lord of the Rings books, Harry Potter. So those types of books, Hunger Games have really just been a core of what I grew up with. So fantasy, dystopian has always been kind of something I've leaned a lot into. The writing journey itself, throughout like schooling, primary schooling and whatnot, I learned about writing and I got into it. Most of my teachers, honestly, were not the most encouraging with the writing space. I've always been leaning more into the math and science realm. And so earlier on, I leaned a lot more into that as I entered high school and such. I had one teacher in 7th grade, I think it was, Mrs. Benz, and she gave us some creative exercises to create like worlds and write a story about that. And so I actually got into that quite a bit. And she really encouraged me to try writing more, but then I started having teachers that didn't necessarily encourage that. So I kind of stepped away from that. And then as for like the reading space, I think for a lot of people, especially in America, we are just required to read for school so much that reading unfortunately moved away as a passion of mine and turned more into a job, I would say. And
honestly, I wonder if today that still happens. On my generation, we have like 3-4 books that were like tasked to do as homework, but I don't know if it's still happening right now.
Yeah, I'm actually a youth mentor. So I have quite a cool group of people that are in high school, and they are overdone with reading for sure, which is just super unfortunate because I wish reading didn't become so much of a job. Obviously, we got to learn things, right? That's how you learn. Reading is a big thing. But when it becomes a job and you don't have time to read things you enjoy, people kind of lose that passion for it. So it really wasn't until post-college that I started reading again. But mostly the writing part. I wrote my first book in 2019, started it in the end of 2019, and then the pandemic happened. And then all of a sudden I had all this extra time to write. And I wrote my first book in about 3 months. And then the second book actually rolled out after that, for like 3 months later. So like I had so much built up inside of me that I wanted to get on paper. Avatar: The Last Airbender became a big thing later on too. So the combination of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Pokemon, and the Aragon series, the adventure aspect of that, really drove me to create this world I did with my books. And it just rolled out so naturally. Like I've just kind of regret that I didn't start writing earlier, honestly. That storytelling has always been something I enjoy. And so, yeah, it just came out so easily. And I have about 7 books written right now, 2 published. And writing is just a passion of mine. So I'm just kind of plowing through it all.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. But why only 2?
Why only 2 are published?
Yeah.
Yeah, publishing takes a lot of work.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, and time, resources, money, and things like that. And I want to make sure that the books that are going out are polished. obviously perfection is something that is difficult to reach. I mean, you find fantastic books nowadays that still have little typos and things like that, but you still want to create as polished a product as you can to get out there. And also, I want to make sure that I give space for my books to be read. So the first two books are part of a trilogy aspect. I'm planning on having the third book to conclude this portion of my overall series this winter, roughly. And I'm going like things change as you kind of go back and reread your book.
But that series is one of your 7 unpublished books, right?
So the overall series, Shades of Aura, I actually have a plan of about 20 to 25 books that will be a part of that. This first 3 I'm releasing are part of the Totarum Chronicles, which is the launch of this overall world that I've created. And there'll be a lot of crossover, a lot of intense new magic systems. Mental health is like a huge thing I tap onto because I personally struggle with anxiety quite a bit. And I wanted people to learn from my books, right? And that's an important thing to me. So
could you elaborate a bit there?
On the mental health aspect, my main character in my books, Yaron Meek, he struggles with anxiety, but it is not, the word is not used. So growing up as a millennial, I always struggled with worrying pretty intensely about things and just very caught in my own mind. But I didn't, yeah. But I didn't have anyone giving words to what was going on with me. Like a lot of people during my era, we were just told to just push past it, keep moving, and not give space for that. Not until I actually entered college, I was involved in a lab. Like I said, science. I have a degree in zoology, marine biology, and I was supposed to go to Antarctica for 3 months to study an ice-sealed lake. And I had an anxiety attack about that, but I didn't know I was. So I remember I like drove home and like I just was like melting down. And my dad actually said, I think you're having some issues and you need to talk to a therapist. And so that was the first time I went to see a therapist. The therapist gave a word to what's been going on to me my entire life. Dissociation is like a huge thing I do. So like dissociation is when you just go out of your body and just go numb. And it just is a defensive mechanism, right, for anxiety. And so my book really gears toward kind of my own personal journey with anxiety. Like, okay.
Honestly, Benjamin, the most impressive thing I have heard of that is that your father actually told you to do that. I mean, people from that generation, it's very rare that they acknowledge mental health issues.
Yeah, and it was more so he saw me just caving in on myself and didn't know what to do. And like I said, I wish I would have been encouraged to do therapy at a younger age, but it just wasn't really a normal thing. So like my own son struggles with anxiety. And now that I know what anxiety is, I'm actually like talking him through when he's having panic attacks or just going into situations where, because like a big thing with anxiety is you go in and you expect things to happen. And when they don't happen, you get angry, you shut down and all these things. So just walking him through to not allow himself to get so caught up in the plans of things and allow a little more flexibility. So it just has been a very cool thing for me to talk to him about that. And also eventually when my son's a little older, start his therapy journey too, just because I just think that's so important. But yeah.
Right. You mentioned that you graduate in zoology and marine biology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you still practicing that?
No. My family owns an insurance agency. And so my day job is selling health insurance. It comes easy to me and it just is, it's part of the family business and whatnot. The zoology side of things, I actually have a master's in it, and I ended up doing a study on an aquarium in Detroit, Michigan, on Belle Isle. Belle Isle Aquarium is the oldest aquarium in the U.S., and they were shut down during some corrupt times for Detroit. They reopened by a bunch of volunteers, and my whole master's study was about like reopening them. So as much as like I don't practice a job in science, my books are deeply deeply impacted by that. I want people to learn things about science. My book has a lot of, they're called partner beasts, which were inspired by Pokemon, but I have a lot of science lessons learned by them and their anatomy and their biology and their physiology and all those types of things. So I really gear my books into learning as well as like helping with mental health, but also escaping in a fantasy world where you can just get lost in it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so well, it's sad that you don't work on that anymore. But
Yeah.
did you ever did that journey to the Antarctica that you mentioned?
No, I never ended up going on it. Like I said, that shut down. Just I needed to step away from that specific responsibility. I just was, early 20s of trying to figure out who I was and all that type of stuff. And ultimately, I mean, it led me to where I am now. I don't know if I would have ended up being a writer if I didn't take that step. I think I would have just gone through the trajectory of what was expected of me as a scientist, but also the amount of schooling and the amount of lab work and research. I started realizing wasn't something I necessarily wanted to do. So,
Yeah, I understand.
yeah.
So, do you have any hobbies that you still practice that help you with your writing?
Yeah, I still am deeply invested in Pokemon, honestly. I'm
Figures.
pretty, if the game is out, I'm playing it. I have two kids that also like Pokemon, so that's not necessarily helping suppress that. So it's just leaning more into it. I do enjoy working out, weightlifting primarily, and that helps a lot with my anxiety, honestly.
Yeah, I know that. I was
Yeah.
told the same thing.
Yeah. So that just is honestly like I enjoy it. And I know a lot of people don't like enjoy working out, but I truly do. It just gives me fulfillment and starts my day in a positive note. And I just like it. And then other hobbies, I do like a volleyball league in the summer. Volleyball is just a fun sport. I coach soccer for my kids and just find enjoyment with that. I'm a volunteer youth leader. I'm pretty involved in our community I'm on the board for Momentum Center, which is a mental health organization in my area. So, I mean, there isn't a lot of free time, but when I do have free time, and obviously reading, like I can't not say that. I really, really do enjoy reading quite a bit.
Clearly you're very busy.
Very busy, yeah.
I prefer to be busy to. For a long time, I was like with a lot of free time, and I was just running myself out.
Yeah.
So it's better to have a purpose.
Yeah, you have a rattling brain. Your rattling brain can't sit. I just can't sit still. It kind of just makes my mind go wild. But
No, I don't think so, but I
okay,
do. But yeah, because if I had one, I wouldn't have ended like that before.
right. Yeah,
But
I just always have to be doing something. Like you got to be productive. That's just the way that I kind of
mhm.
function. But yeah,
Actually, at first hand, I know someone, my father, that lost his job and lost his purpose because he was one of those kind of workaholics.
Mm,
He ended up depressed and
yeah.
sick, lost tons of weight. So honestly, after seeing that, I realized that it's better to have things to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and you got to do things you enjoy too. Like if work becomes like a job you don't like becomes your only focus, and it just sucks your soul away, right? But
Yeah. So tell me, Benjamin, did your style get inspired by any other author that you can mention?
yeah, so I kind of mentioned the Aragon, Christopher Paolini's series Inheritance Cycle. That's a pretty big inspiration for me. I know a lot of people don't count TV shows and like movies and things like that as inspiration for writing, but I disagree with that because they are
I
stories.
agree.
Yeah. And so Avatar: The Last Airbender is a huge thing for me. I think that is one of the most perfectly done stories that has ever happened. Legend, and then video game wise, Legend of Zelda. I love the mystery and figuring out things and the adventure and the creative beasts and like darkness that's involved. A lot of my writing has, as much as like you want those rosy polished things to happen, I have a lot of darkness involved because life is full of darkness, and Legend of Zelda does a good job of capturing that light versus dark kind of idea.
Yeah,
So that's
the stories are very simplistic on that franchise, but I do think that their world building is top notch.
absolutely, yeah. And world building, I make things pretty complicated at times, but I try to make it approachable. And I think, like, for example, Legend of Zelda does that. Pokemon, Avatar, they've all done these things where they have very complex worlds, but they made them approachable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So tell me, did you ever think that this will happen in your life, becoming a writer?
Uh, Earlier on, no. I've always like my overall dream, and I think I prayed every night about this, is I wanted Pokemon to be real. To be honest, like that was like a big thing I wanted. And let's be honest, I kind of still probably want that to happen, but I've always loved escaping into worlds. So as much as no, I didn't think I'd become a writer, I'm so engrossed in that like it's always been a huge passion of mine. So I think I was kind of destined for this to happen. I just didn't necessarily know it was be this specific route. I wanted to like being a Pokemon creator would have been sweet. I would have loved doing a job like that, but like that type of animation drawing and things like that is not a forte of mine. So it's difficult to try to figure out like what does work with that creative space. And then like I said, I had this idea for the story. I'm like, I'm gonna try writing it. Let's see what happens. And it just rolled out so naturally. I was like, this really is just what I meant to do. So,
Well, it's not entirely impossible, even if it's a Japanese company, because one of the main designers of Pokemon is actually an American guy.
yeah,
I don't
it
know.
would be a cool dream job, but I also think that like I want to create my own stories. So I don't know if I would integrate well with someone telling me what to do. So that would be the only thing that I think I'd butt heads. But yeah.
Right. Any advice for any new writers starting right now?
Yeah, I mean, first thing, just write. You might not, some people I think go in writing and expect things to be perfect and they get so caught up in the grammar and things like that. That's the point of editing. Just get your story out there. The other thing is that some people like to plot stories and some people like to just roll with it. It's called pantsing. I personally had an overall idea I wanted to happen, but I just kind of created some of my characters and some of their characteristics, and I just started writing. New characters popped up as things went on, new ideas for the magic system, new partner beasts, and all these things just kind of rolled out as I kept writing. The times that I don't write well are the times that I get so caught up and worried about what I'm trying to accomplish with it. But when I just relax and just let it happen, it just rolls out so easily. I also highly, highly recommend finding people to read your stories. Yeah, writing groups.
A support network.
Yeah, absolutely. The writing groups, various communities are available, close friends and family. When you have that first person, which honestly, the first person that ever read my story was the most terrifying thing that's ever happened to me. I was just so worried it was just going to be utter garbage. And I just like, I know I believe in it, but like, what if it's not that? But when I got that first word of like, yeah, you got some things you got to fix, but like, this is a really cool idea. I was like, this is awesome. Cool. I'm just going to keep rolling with this. And then you find more critical groups, and that's kind of a later on step. And I would advise not necessarily going that route right away. Just to create some confidence in what you're doing first, because it is a very nerve-wracking thing to do. At least it was for me to put myself out there. Yeah.
So you mentioned about the style, preparing the story. So are you a pre-planner, plotter, or do you just improvise?
Yeah, so this original story, I originally, the two books I have published now, when I was going into writing it, the end of book 2 was what I wanted to accomplish. So I had this idea of what I wanted each character to, what to happen with them, which is the plotting aspect of it. But as I was writing, things just snowballed and just turned into something bigger than I intended. That the pantsing space really just overtook me a bit. But at the same time, when that pantsing happened and I had this really big idea I wanted to accomplish, I ended up plotting more of what I wanted to happen. I don't really plot a ton with my characters of where I want them each to be. I kind of allow like my writing to kind of let their personalities kind of flow where they're supposed to go. But the magic system and the drama and the betrayal and things like that, that I did plan out. But now that I'm taking this into I had the idea of doing this bigger 20, 25 book scheme of things, I have to plot. I have to make sure that I'm not contradicting the other books. and making sure that my magic system is all cohesive and makes sense. So that is an area that I really, in that space is where I'm hardcore plotting and making sure that I'm doing the right things, but I'm still allowing kind of that flexibility. So I'm a mix now of plotting and pantsing, a little more plotting than I used to be.
Do you do anything when you have like a writer's block?
Yeah, writer's block. Music is a big thing for me. I have like different playlists I'll play to just kind of pull out my emotions. If I'm having a writer's block for a sad scene, I have like sad music I play. If I have like energetic, adventurous one, I have that playlist. I'm big into lyrics. I'm a big music fan. Noah Kahn, Taylor Swift. I am a big Swiftie. Mumford and Sons are a few bands that are people I really enjoy their music, and I just like the complexity of their lyrics. That the poetic aspect of things really inspires me for writing. And then I also, the partner beast aspect, I'm in a space now where I'm creating more of these partner beasts and I'm drawing more of them and coming up with their abilities. And actually, I'm involving my kids a little bit with the process, which is kind of fun. And that space really gets my imagination running wild and really just inspires a lot of getting more and more writing done. And then also, I like to watch various TV shows. I like the drama. I'm a big Disney kid too. So granted, Disney is not producing the best of stuff right now, but there's a lot of the older Disney stuff or more kind of modern Disney stuff. I watch that with my kids and that kind of gets my blood going. And then also I enjoy theater musicals and things like that. And that really gives a lot of inspiration as well. So different forms really gets you going, but yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your first book?
Yeah, the Walls of Totarum is my first book, which is, like I said, part of a series. It's about Yarn Meek, who's been trapped in the city called Totarum his entire life, which is run by officers who have suppressed this idea of aura. So aura is this mist that's above people's heads that people can manipulate. There are 5 auras. They're perception, vigor, mentality, luck, and empathy. And a person can only manipulate 1 aura. So these officers in Totarum, which is the city my main character Yarn's been in his entire life, have kept this idea of aura secret. They've also oppressed the citizens through various punishments. The city is walled. It has a giant wall around it that has some weird attributes about it that makes everyone uneasy. On Yarn's 18th birthday, he sees this mist above people's heads and he moves it. It happens to be on one of the officers that runs the city. It causes a lot of problems where he now needs to escape his city in fear of punishment, which launches him into the world of Biome Beyond the Wall, where there's mystical partner beasts that people connect with via aura, and he's also trying to figure out what aura he can manipulate. He right away meets a character called Aurora, who is a perceptionist who brings him to the capital, Flaunte, where he learns about the perception aura first. And that's what book 1 focuses on and trying to figure out if he's a perceptionist. There's a lot of mental health themes, like I've already mentioned, with anxiety. There's also a lot of found family. He just is developing this community because he's always felt out of place. And there's a reason he's felt out of place. And now he's finding people that make sense to him. There's a lot of betrayal. Book 1 has some betrayal. Book 2 is littered with it. And then he also forms a connection with a beast, Ricochet. And so exploring that aspect of things is a fun thing for him as well. And that's book 1. Do you want me to go into book 2 a little bit?
If you want,
okay.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, so book 2 is the aftermath of book 1. There's a big plot twist that happens at the end that is putting Yarn into a deep spiral of mental health issues. His anxiety is at its peak. He's in the mentality capital as he's learning about the mentality aura. And they're also later on in that book explore Hallow, which is the hidden golden city that's been kept secret for quite some time for the luck aura. And he learns about those 2 auras in book 2. There's more partner beasts. There's a couple huge battle scenes that happen. There are characters that are that die, unfortunately, that are important to him. He really navigates the mental health aspect with a newer character he meets called the Soothsayer, who is a very powerful mentalist, and just learns what his anxiety actually is and how people deal with it and things like that. And then the second book has a major betrayal in it. So I like to call my first book that fun start of an adventure, and my second book is emotionally damaging, is what I'll call it.
Well, with those descriptions, I guess number 3 will be like the peaceful one.
Yeah, The Hopes of Toterum will be book 3. And that book explores the empathy aura, and then also Toterum more in the vigor aura.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'll say about that one for now.
That's okay. So, do you have a story of how you named your books?
Yeah, so in my book, I have a map in it and whatnot with Biome, which is the country of Toterum, which is the capital of the Vigor Aura, which is where Yarn came from. The whole book is, in a way, Toterum is the villain. There are specific people villains in it, but the city itself has become such a villain in his head, which is personally something that I grew up with. And I'm from a very conservative city called Holland, Michigan, where I just felt like my world was very controlled of what I knew. And then when I started going beyond my city and learning more about new people, new colors, beautiful things out there, my perspective of what life was kind of changed. And so there's a little bit of what Toterum is to me is just, for a bit, I blamed Holland for some of my problems or things that I felt like I could have evolved in a better way as I was growing up. And my main character blames Toterum on that quite a bit. So the walls of Toterum is because Toterum is literally surrounded by a wall. And that was just the start of the book, is going beyond the wall, which has a lot of different imagery types of things with it.
I can see this fantasy is a lot more personal than it seems at first.
Exactly.
Interpretation.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where a lot of reader feedback and just reviews have been saying, like, the main character is so approachable and like just represents what I feel with anxieties. And that's what I wanted to accomplish with him. Book 2 is called The Calamities of Toterum. And like I said, I am a big Legend of Zelda fan, and Calamity Ganon is one of the big villains in it, but just the word calamity really stood out to me. There's a lot of chaos that happens in book 2, and calamity just fit with what I was trying to accomplish. And I just think it's a fun word, honestly. And then the book 3 is The Hopes of Toterum, where hopefully there'll be some good things happening for this entire country and all the war that's been going on.
So, what is your favorite book written by you so far?
Book 2, The Calamities of Toterum, is my favorite book. It is raw. It is fun. It is just filled with so many things that I've always wanted in books, and I just poured my heart and soul into it. So I adore this second book. The first book for me, I love, but getting a higher fantasy world created, people always want to learn things as quick as possible, but not too quick. And so like finding that happy balance medium was a terrifying thing for me. And honestly, when I published that book, I was terrified of like, what if people just don't like it? But The Calamities of Toterum, which I just released about a week ago, was the most natural thing I've ever done. Like I've always felt confident about this book, and I know it's good.
Any
so
feedback till now?
On The Calamities, on the second book?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting very good feedback. It actually, the book has a higher rating from book 1, which is great. Obviously, it doesn't have as many reviews because it just released a week ago. But I don't foresee that. Like honestly, kind of comparing some of the people that reviewed the book, the first book and the second book, because they've read both, their ratings were higher for book 2, and just the feedback and the words I'm getting about just how inspiring this book was, and just the twists and like the emotions and everything. I know I accomplished quite a bit with it. So
well, happy to hear that. So what is the release window between both books?
I released book one in July of 2024, book two, March of 2025. And then, like I said, I'm leaning toward getting book three released, hopefully late fall, early winter is the plan.
Well, if
Yeah.
the book is already finished, you might do it long summer, maybe.
Um, I am going through the third book right now because I did add some newer things and I also created more beasts to add into it. So, and just integrating that into the third book. And also, like, honestly, some of the ways I edited and my writing style has changed a little bit. And I want to make sure that's reflective in the third book. And this third book is longer than the other two, so it just takes more time to get through that. But I'm not worried about it. I do believe that I'll get that one done. And then I have these three other books planned for next year, which they are pretty much ready. I just have to once again just do a little fine tooth combing through them. So
Editing, basically.
yeah,
Do
exactly.
you have, do you have help with that, or do you do everything yourself?
No, I absolutely don't do it myself. I despise editing. Some people love line editing. I hate it. So I did do like developmental editing side of things. I feel more comfortable in, but I still did hire a developmental editor just to help make sure the cohesion for the stories and the characters. I wasn't missing things because it's always good to get feedback on that. And of course, beta readers and all that too. And then I did have someone do line editing side of things and then just a proofread because once again my eyes are going to miss things. I'm a human, and so just getting people that do it on a regular basis just helped a ton.
Yeah. So, do you have any experience with one of your readers that you fondly remember?
You mean like just talking to them and
Like something like you remember that they say something, or something positive they say about you or your work that you remember fondly.
that's a tougher question to remember. I don't remember verbatim what was said. I'm probably butchering what they did even say. It was more of a recent review where someone said that watching Benjamin's writing style evolve into book two, you can just tell how it's improving first off, but also his involvement with his characters is like you can tell he poured his heart into each of these characters and just turned into things that are just so human and relatable that like I just connect with them so much. But also Yaren's partner beast Ricochet, people have really loved the beast itself, which doesn't talk. And accomplishing something like that can be difficult when you're just using the mannerisms of the animal. Obviously, I have the aura aspect, but just the bond that I created between my main character and his partner beast has been something that people have really enjoyed and people have really noticed that. And so I've had a few comments about that. My absolute favorite thing though is I go to quite a few like different book fests or like Comic-Con events and things like that, where I have a very cool, honestly, setup where I have like twinkle lights hanging above me. And then like I have like a custom tablecloth that has like the wall. And when you get to the top of the wall, it turns into bright colors. And I have like an aura test on my website. So I like have a lot of things that are interactive. But when I have someone walk by my table to hear about my book and I explain my book and just seeing their face light up just from the description, that's honestly the coolest feeling in the world. Just by describing my story in 20 seconds, just getting someone that's excited about it and wants to buy it and read it it's a very cool thing.
Have you ever thought in making like one of those story Bibles? The ones that had pictures.
A graphic novel type of thing? Is that what you're talking about?
No, no. Remember when Zelda made that book with tons of information
Oh,
about
yeah.
and the
Yeah.
timeline and everything like that?
Yeah, I don't necessarily like maybe timeline wise. In my second book, I have in the back where I have a little like thing about each of the auras in it, where it just talks about like what each aura is. I added hierarchies, but my favorite thing I did is I created the Beasts of Biome, where I have little drawings of each beast that's in there, along with like a description of like their height, their weight, their magical abilities, their habitat. This has been I've gotten a lot of great feedback about this. It just like you describe a beast in a book, but like having like, and I don't want to take away from people's create imagination of like seeing the beast in their own head, but giving a basic outline for it really just allows people to just run wild with their imagination with it. So that was just a thing I really wanted to do. And I have about 20-ish, 25 beasts in the second book listed back there with their basic drawings. And obviously the third book will have even more. So that's just been a very fun thing to do.
You mentioned before about the support network. Do you have like one established right now that helps you, or you just look for different people each time you need one?
Yeah, so my the first time I wrote the first book back in 20, like finished it in 2020, I had a few good friends and my sister read the book and give feedback, and there's about four of them that first read it. And honestly, they have a lot of other things going on, and like their dedication isn't to doing it. And I appreciate them doing that, but like I just me asking them questions all the time, I could tell kind of get a little irritating. So you need someone who like knows what they're doing with this space. I joined through my local chamber of commerce, a leadership group where I met my friend Natalie, who is the assistant director of our local library. She told me that there was a writing group at the library that she absolutely thought I should join. So I did, run by Lindsay Zerul, who's a local author. And there's a pretty consistent group of us that would meet every other week and bring a sample of our writing and just critique the heck out of things. And that, yeah, like honestly, the beginning of that, I felt like I needed to stop writing because like I was learning things I didn't know before. Like, for example, I didn't know toward and towards. Toward is an American thing. Towards is a British thing, which I just didn't know that before. And I had one of the writers in there drill that into my head that I use towards too often. And so like that is like, I still have nightmares about that. But that writing group really just helped me evolve. I did that for about 2-ish years. I recently have not been going to that as often as I did. Time has just become very difficult with mostly trying to get my book out there with just various events. And as I've already mentioned, I'm a very busy person, so I haven't been doing that one specific. I have joined a couple of bookshops that focus on independent authors only, and I've really developed a community from that, which has been a very cool thing. So those are newer communities I have where there are literally authors that have self-published their books and are kind of going through the same things I'm going through. Because the biggest support I need now is the marketing side of things, and just like am I doing anything correct? Because that is a whole different shell. And so that's just been my newer network. As for the writing side of things, I'm trying to get these first 6-ish books kind of like solidified before I going into a writing group again where I critique newer works I'm doing. So I'm kind of I have a plan of what I want to accomplish. It's just currently I don't need the critique group as much as I did before. So
I understand, but at least you have one.
Yes, absolutely.
Most people just go to Instagram and look for someone.
Yeah, and that's like I've done the one-on-one type of thing, and it's not the same because when you have like a 5-6 people that are having a conversation about it and like, oh, now I get it, or like they say things or like that's a good idea and they agree with each other, I think that is a lot more helpful than just one, because one person is, I think a teamwork approach is more helpful than an individual typically, but yeah.
So tell me, what is your largest goal or dream in this path as a writer?
I want people to read my book. Like that is the biggest thing I want to do is now that I feel very confident that I've created something that people like and enjoy is just getting my audience base out there more. I want to accomplish writing this major 2025 book plan I have because it will be a very cool, wild, deep magic conclusion that will happen, which is so much crossover of all these characters I'm creating over time. I have this big dream to just do that. And I want people to read my book. That really is, I know it's simple, but like, that's what I want.
No, it's very realistic, actually. Honestly, I think the same. I probably will go on that route too. So tell me, how do you handle the challenges of marketing as self-published, right?
Yeah, I originally was going the traditional publication route, which for those of people that don't know, the querying process is the most stressful thing of your entire life, of writing a 400-word letter to get people to even consider writing your book. I was destroying myself when I was going through that process in an unhealthy way of just, I was so critical of everything I was doing. I did a paid consultation with a couple of agents to just look at my query letter in the first 10 pages of my book and just give feedback on it. And they said, oh, your query letter is great. Cool. I was like, okay. Your comps, maybe you could rethink those. And just a comp is like you're comparing your title to another title, but it has to be a title within the past 5 years, which is also kind of wild to me because, like, I think people obviously read books from the past too, but that's a whole different topic. So I was just talking to this agent and I finally went, okay, you're saying like my beginning of my book's great, my query letter's great, but I'm not getting anyone asking to read the book. So what am I doing wrong? And he didn't have a clear answer for it. And one thing he said specifically is one of the comps I used was the Aragon Inheritance Cycle book, which he said it was too old. But at the same time, the Murtagh book, which is just released within the past year, was out. And that's part of that same story. So I disagreed with saying that's not applicable. He said, well, people don't really relate to that anymore. So I naturally took to TikTok and I created this post of saying things I like in my writing that inspire my writing. And it did pretty well. That over about a month period, I gained about 11,000 followers on there that just were relating to like, oh, I love Aragon and saying things like that. And I was like sitting there, and then also kind of brought out of that, I started having more and more independent authors kind of like comment, and I started talking to them and just like what they did with their journey. And I didn't really consider going that route, but I almost felt like the agent thinks or telling other people what is applicable to what readers want. But when I posted something to see what readers wanted, they did want that.
Especially because the guy clearly didn't know that high fantasy is in its biggest right now.
Yeah. And so I disagreed with some of the things he said. And I'm like, this seems like a good idea to go. So then I said, I'm going to self-publish. And then learning that, just developing new communities of learning what I needed to do or seeing different resources to use to make it happen. I absolutely made some mistakes when I was self-publishing my first book, because I didn't have anyone guiding me to tell me what to do. But the second book has just come so easily with self-publishing because now I'm kind of that trend in it a little bit. And it just feels more natural. And like I said, my community, my resources, I have specific people I can talk to and, bounce ideas off of that. It just made sense. And I like the controlled self-publishing. I mean, the traditional publication route, I think that whole industry is changing in different ways, good and bad. But I liked the control. And I also, the idea of like your book probably will take 2-3 years before it actually even get out there through traditional publication was a bit wild to me, which not that I'm impatient, but I kind of wanted my books to get out sooner and started going through that. And also, I don't know, it's fun. It's exhilarating. It's tiring. I cry. I get happy, like all these emotions tied to it. It's just a wild experience. So.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, which platforms can we get your books?
It is available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited as first area. I know like the boycotting thing is happening with that. I will say if you are boycotting Amazon, great. But for independent authors, it's the most affordable route to publish books. So just kind of keep that in mind as much as we want to, stick it to the big business. There are a lot of smaller businesses that are tied to that. So just kind of keep that in mind. So it's available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. It's available on my website to order. I do signed copies with extra goodies like a keychain with a sigil, custom stickers, custom bookmark, and some other goodies that kind of come with it. It's available through some online bookstores, to name a couple, Salient Books, and then the Crafty Books shop, which I have links and stuff in my social media and link tree about to purchase from them. Those two bookshops do really cool custom packages where they put their heart and soul into the packaging, into it's an experience of getting your book. Like you kind of see bookstagrammers or like social media influencers open these really cool packages. These stores actually do that. So it just is a cool experience with that too. And then there are a few bookstores here and there that do carry my book, and a few libraries across the country. I'm not 100% sure on who does, but I mean, they do have the capability to order it. I am through Ingram Spark, which is where a lot of bookstores order from. So they do have the capability to look up a book and order that route too.
Okay. Are you planning like going to any event in person, a signing, or maybe somewhere to just sell the book?
Yeah, I am actually next weekend going to be in Richmond, Virginia at GalaxyCon with the pop-up bookshop. It's just we'll have a huge table with a few various authors selling there. I'll be at Animate Columbus. I think that's in June. I'm going to the Hall of Heroes Comic Con in early June in Northern Illinois. I'm going to most likely the Louisville Book Fair in the fall. There's a few other ones I'm not remembering off the top of my head. I didn't have that written out, but I do post that stuff and say the places I'll be. So I'm trying to schedule more and more events to go to and trying to reach out to more areas. So
No, that's a great,
mhm.
excellent. At least you have a plan and
Yeah,
already know where to go. That's
yeah,
pretty great.
yeah. Once again, self-publishing, you're managing everything yourself, and so I'm my own PR person. So
Exactly. So, did you make your cover yourself, or you hire a service?
yeah, I did actually make the cover myself. I was going to hire some people and I looked at some ideas. I will say I had an original cover that has been retired. It was really just a close up of the wall. It had some cool details. It looked cool in person, but digitally it was very difficult to market. So then I changed it to, and I don't even know if the lighting shows up here. It's a purple cover. It looks a lot better in person and online and things like that. I don't think I have great lighting right now. So I did design this one. It's Yarn on top of the wall where he's, dealing with aura. And then it has a red star, which is in a recurring dream he has. The calamities of Chitarum, also it's going to be kind of dark to see. But once again, you can see it online. It basically is green and blue colors. It has a mountain range, which is part of the mentality aura, and then a lake, which is part of luck. And then there's a little thing right here where it's Yarn sitting next to Ricochet with aura surrounding them. And it just shows him very secluded and alone, because that's really what this book starts off as. So, and they correlate with one another, right? You have the stars kind of, going through things, and the third book will be like that too. So.
What color will be the third book?
That is going to be a surprise. It is going to be a lot more colorful because as he's exploring the world more and more, he's having more and more color. So that's the idea with it.
Well, it's called The Hope of.
Yes. Yeah. So it will be a brighter cover for sure.
Exactly. Okay. Do you have any social media where people could contact you or learn more about your work?
For sure. I'm active primarily on Instagram and TikTok. My Instagram, and I'll post these things, but my Instagram handle is at Bengar_Kamphuis. Bengar is actually my favorite Pokemon is Gengar, and my name is Ben, so I did Bengar. A little nerdy thing. And then my TikTok is at Vanguard27. So those are the two main ones. I have a newsletter that I send out twice a month, just to kind of give updates on events I'm going to and just different writing things. And I also, every newsletter feature an indie author and their work that they did that I've been meeting. So I really like to include my community that I've built and just the cool work that people have made. So those are the main areas. Like I said, on my website, I do have a very cool aura test someone can take. It's like a personality-esque test. It is actually pretty nonlinear. So you basically answer questions, and at the end, it tells you what aura you can manipulate. So I've had a lot of great feedback. People have had a lot of fun with that. And also it just kind of gives a little more dive into each specific aura and what's all entailed with that. But
those tests are always fun to do.
They are, yeah. People wanted to be told who they are.
It reminds me when the Hunter Nen tests were popular around the time. Well, Benjamin, I think that's all for now. Thank you so much for coming today.
Good. Yeah, this has just been a fun journey. I love doing things like this to just kind of talk about it, meeting more people and getting the word of my book out there more.
I'm happy to hear that.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks to Benjamin, we got some interesting lessons on this episode, like how we don't need to feel bad if writing didn't start in a young age. It's never too late to find your voice. Also, that you don't need to have all planned. So personally, I will struggle a bit with this one. But it is true that it doesn't work for everyone, so it's okay if you just spell everything for you. And more importantly, fantasy can be personal. Fantasy world building isn't just about cool magic system and maps. It can reflect your own emotions and worldviews without needing to be realistic. It will still send the message. thanks for coming and joining us today. If you find this episode inspiring, like, subscribe, and share this video. And give Marky Books a try in the link below. Have a nice day and see you next week.